Welcome to our second ever inAtalent informational. Today we will be talking about our business project, and we are especially excited to announce Ranjan Goel, who will be talking about customer and market segmentation. He is a product management executive with over 20 years of experience in building new products and growing businesses for enterprise networking, cloud, cybersecurity, and big data analytics. He has an MBA from Santa Clara University and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from IIT. And in his spare time, he loves to coach teams for robotics competitions and go for trail runs and mountain bikes on the Saratoga Hills. So I am now excited to present Ranjan, who will be talking about customer and market segmentation today.
Thank you, Anna. This is a topic I'm very familiar with. I've been working with customer segmentation for last 20 plus years, mostly in a B2B environment, business to business for enterprise customers, which may be a bit difficult for you guys to grasp. So a lot of my examples will be in business to consumer, B2C type of scenarios. So you can easily relate to. So now, let's start with why we want to do customer segmentation. So most of you have gone through an exercise this week, last week around segmentation. So let's start with your perspective of why people want to do customer segmentation, whether from a company perspective or a nonprofit perspective. From any such angles.
This week we focused on basically starting off, since we're starting the inAtalent Academy. So for customer segmentation, we were seeing what the best demographics would be. And for my deliverable, I was comparing Khan Academy and Connections Academy to the future inAtalent Academy that we're trying to create.
Nice. That's really good. So, as you went through this exercise, what is your learning about segmentation, customer segmentation? But start with why do you think you need to do customer segmentation?
I guess to properly market to the audience that you're looking for, because a lot of target demographics could be very different in the way that they're finding information or getting about your product. So just to effectively advertise to everyone and make sure that your product is best suited for the people who you're trying to sell it to.
Very nice. Sajal, that is really good. I like that answer. Let me start with some of my reasons why I have typically gone through this exercise, multiple products in the past. What you see here is basically kind of a timeline of as you think through a new product or service, you first need to figure out who would be my customer. So whenever you are thinking of who, you need to be able to almost visualize that person. Is it for a retired person? Is it for a working person? Is it a student? Is it a male from a gender perspective, from a geography perspective? Where would they reside? So you start to get a bit more idea of who. So when you're building that service or product, you can actually build that product or service directed towards that customer, not for a random set of people, but to a very specific set of people. And the second thing is, as you're building and designing your products and services, you for example, talked about Khan Academy as an example. So when obviously Khan Academy was established, say maybe 10 years back as a nonprofit organization, they must have thought, okay, maybe high school students, of all the different type of students, maybe the high school students is my target persona where I want to start with. And they maybe expand beyond that to maybe middle school students, but most likely they did not start with college students, though all of these variety of people are in the student category. So that's just one example of how you basically, as you're designing your product and service, you're trying to narrow down the choice of your customer and market segment. And as you narrow that down, you then basically, from your product and service perspective, build it towards that target customer and their needs. So that's from a product and service perspective. You build it specific to them. So it's mostly the engineers, designers, or the product architects. They are very interested in, as they build a product or service, that, hey, let me figure out the needs. Then second, when the product is ready, you need to figure out what should be the price point. So if, for example, if not a non-profit organization where it's free, but suppose it's a for-profit organization which sells, say, online coursework. So obviously for the online coursework, the price point matters. So a 30-minute online session for a college student will be priced a lot differently than a 30-minute session for an elementary student. So that's where, again, your target audience matters a lot, and figuring out how do you price that. The last piece, when we talk about promotions, it's basically to entice that customer to purchase the product. And a lot of time you bundle things together. So you see, when I talk about bundling, you buy one get one free, or you purchase this and you get one another service free. um, so there are all these things that are created by marketeers to basically entice the customer. But obviously, as you build these price and promotions and bundles, you need to have very innate knowledge of your target customer. You understand what motivates them, what drives them towards that purchasing behavior, and what other things, not just the specific product you're building and promoting, what other things they would like. So you can start to bundle them together. So that's the pricing promotion aspect of it.
I have a question. Given that these are products and services, and the the interns are actually looking to build the next generation of service, would it be fair for them to think in terms of price, as in the time people are willing to spend to invest in the nonprofit, and then the value they would receive? So we could almost look like it. A price is a cost to a target audience, and the price that they're paying is their time. Are they willing to invest time and then put it in that? Just to see if this translates into nonprofit speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from a non-profit perspective, so you have to first think from a customer perspective who's consuming this service. In this case, for example, there's online coursework, and they're consuming the service. So they are going to spend some time. There may be a substitute cost, so that if there is something else they're using today to get that knowledge, does that cost them? Is it a book? Is it an online course from somewhere? If it is not easily accessible, so they have to basically patch a lot of pieces of information together. So it may take them, say, 2 hours to build that knowledge, whereas the service you're going to build gets them the same set of knowledge experience within, say, 30 minutes. So obviously that's the value. So great point, Rocky. And as you actually promote this, that's something in your communication out to your target audience, saying, hey, it took you 2 hours to build that knowledge. Our service not only is free, it's going to save you time. So the challenge with nonprofit is, okay, it's free. So how do you promote it? Because, hey, Khan Academy is free. Your service is free. How do you distinguish your service from Khan Academy? So that's where the value for money, value for time comes in. That perhaps your service is distinct, that it saves a lot of time, and obviously time is money. The last piece is about communication. And when you know the target profile of your audience, you know what is the message they like to hear, characteristics of that message, and how, in the sense, through a website, um, through basically a storefront messaging. There are a lot of different ways. But even if through SMS and text, or any sort mechanism, is basically called omni-channel marketing. A lot of companies do it. That they may use social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. The message may be same, or very similar with the information, but different based on the media you're targeting. But if you, for example, the same person you direct towards a website, the website may have more information. So knowing the type of audience, you cater the type of message, and where those people like to communicate with, and you go to those channels and communicate with those people appropriately. So that's the last piece in terms of closing out for why piece. So in just summary, the reason we typically do customer segmentation before the start of any project is you identify the customer, you build a product or service for that customer, you create a price point and promotion and bundling for the consumption of that product or service, and then you effectively communicate to your audience. But that gives you these 4 points, a very high level view of why typically uh, organizations go through a customer segmentation study. So what are the different customer segmentation types? So there are multiple ways in the enterprise world we do customer segmentation. The simplest way to do the segmentation is based on demographics. And what it means is you've identified the age, gender, occupation, marital status of your target customer base, and then you cluster that customer base based on these parameters. So you could say, if my target audience would be of age 30 to say 40 years, they may be all males, and they may have this type of an occupation. So that will be an example of a customer segmentation that is based on demographics. Psychographic is more in terms of their personality types of these customers, their lifestyle, their social status. It's a bit more difficult to get to because you need more in-depth understanding of your customers. So very fewer type of companies try to get to psychographics, because you need to have a very detailed questionnaire to a customer so that you can say, okay, if these are the 3 psychographic profiles, this particular customer lies in this particular profile or cluster. And you need to know a lot of personality traits. And sometimes these type of questions may be too revealing from a customer's standpoint. So they will say halfway through a survey saying, this is too revealing. I don't want to go through this psychoanalysis. So that's why a lot of businesses don't go through this. Behavioral analysis is more on spending, usage, consumption habit. A lot of it is public data. You can purchase this data, so it's easier to get to. And a lot of time it gets combined with, say, demographics. So you can combine demographics with the usage patterns or consumption habits, and then you can create your customer segmentation based on that. So it's not that when you do create customer segmentation, it has to be just one of these 4 methods. You could combine them also. And the last method, and I would say easiest method from a customer segmentation perspective, is your geographic aspects, where you reside, either based on zip code, which country, which region of the world, or the type of location, urban, city, rural. So as you can imagine, if you're building a product or a service, say you have a fast food operation. If that fast food operation is targeting a city center versus a rural area, obviously the type of price, the type of menu would be very different. So obviously, before you build a product like that, you have to pay attention to who would be your target and in which geography they would reside. So in a very high level, I covered the basic segmentation types, which ones are generally more popular in the industry, which ones are not, and you could combine some of them together to get to what you want. So suppose, very simple, segmentation is you ask the customer of their age, target customers, and their income. So that's very easy. Just two things you need to find. Sometimes this information is in public databases, like you can go refer to census database as just an example, and that gives you high level information uh, about age, income distribution within US. There are other public databases that can be purchased. So you have this information, and you'll have a scatter chart of people across age and income. So what I'm showing is basically a distribution of these people in certain clusters. So you will see a cluster of people in the lower left, which are like maybe less than 20-year-old and barely earning any money, depending on how much pocket money their parents are giving them. And then obviously on the other end are executives who may be, say, in 35 and above age range, and they're earning money. Now, so this is just say a profile of people based on age and income. Now, what you see here is this identification of clusters by name. So the key thing for a lot of marketeers is you need to actually identify these clusters and almost give them a personality, so that when, say, you're done with this customer segmentation, and you create a documentation or a report out of it, and you say this is my profile of my segments, and you have to kind of give a name to each profile, and that is very crucial. And the reason is, so to say, the next person who comes in and works on this project, or you hand off this project to a product designer or a service designer, when they look at the just the name of the cluster, they will be able to almost figure out that, hey, this is a student profile, or this is a soccer mom profile, so this is their typical behavior. Now, when I talk about behaviors, for example, then it's more than just age and income. So the executives, say in this example, let's just say they're all in the market to purchase shoes. So the way students purchase shoes versus the way executives purchase shoes are very different. So they're all in the market to buy sneakers. Now, as you can imagine, so this is where the behavior profiling comes in. So just by knowing the age and income will not be enough to really identify the target audience. There are other things you can leverage. So like consumption model, the executives consumption model, where they want to purchase these things, these sneakers, would be very different than how, for example, soccer moms would want to purchase a sneaker, and for what purpose. So that's where you develop that profile a bit further. So the next thing when you do after kind of a high level profile is you start to go into further details. Now, when I say further details, this is just one template, and depending on the task at hand, you may have a slightly different template. But the idea is same, that you almost be able to personalize and visualize your target segment. So suppose in the previous one, I was talking about soccer moms. So here, when you put a buyer persona of a soccer mom, you'll have a picture, you'll have the details. So you pick one soccer mom, and you would provide enough information that, like, it's kind of a generalization of every soccer mom. Now, you could say that, hey, I'm stereotyping every person in that age group and income group as a soccer mom, which is right in a way, but you have to, as a marketeer, generalize things to make it easier uh, to work. So this is one way. But at the same time, when you generalize, you want to personalize also. So there are two competing thoughts. You have to generalize. This is what, hey, all the soccer moms behave like this when they purchase sneakers. But when you say that, and you give that information to a person who's designing a sneaker, that's not enough. how do they know, like, hey, what type of sneaker I need to design? And then you say, okay, here's you may pick 5 personas for soccer moms. So I've interviewed, say, 100 soccer moms. These 5 soccer moms actually are a good representation. Um, this is how they look like. This is their professional aspect. This is a good quote I got from them. These are their values. This is where these websites they go to. This is how they put their buying decisions down when I interviewed them. Things like that. So now, as you can see, it starts to get more personal in terms of the information you know about that target persona. Okay, so I talked about sneakers. Let's just take one example of a sneaker. And you basically, your task is start with, say, you're employed at Nike, and Nike says, hey, we have to come up with a new sneaker. And can you do a customer segmentation for me? So how would you go about doing that? So let's start with what you have learned so far. Let's try to exercise it. Uh, what would be the methods you would employ to say, okay, this is how I want to do segmentation before we build a new sneaker at Nike?
I would say, I think age groups, I guess,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, nice. Yeah, absolutely. So age group, obviously, there's a retiree who's in the market for a sneaker. Their need for a sneaker would be different. Say they need a lot of comfort, they need stability, versus somebody who's a runner, and they would have a sneaker that's super light, very flexible, or somebody who needs a sneaker as a fashion statement, a lot of colors, bling. So as you can imagine, as you go probe this concept a bit further, so age is one criteria, but you start to figure out that, hey, there are a lot more criteria that will define who would be a target customer segment. How do I do a segmentation for that target customer?
I think maybe like gender,
Yeah, yeah,
like
absolutely.
male or female.
Maybe like how athletic or like who it's made for.
The geographic location.
Why do they need the shoe? Like for what?
For what purpose? Yeah. So somebody mentioned geographic location. So explore that further. So if I'm a, say, a shoe designer at Nike, and how would that information help me?
So like geographic location, like maybe in some locations there might not be like a certain type of leather available to like design the shoe, like just factories there. And also like based on geographic location, there's like different price ranges that people can afford. Like in the Bay Area, like they tend to be a little like more in like high middle class, like compared to other like states. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so price, that determines the price, that determines the type of material. The type of material, actually, because a lot of this is outsourced to factories in China, that may not come into consideration. But for example, the type of material that is suitable for the geography. So suppose you're using this sneaker in Seattle, where there's a lot of rain. So you need to make sure that kind of this is waterproof, rainproof type of issue. There is good water protection. Whereas, hey, if it is in Bay Area or Southern California, you need shoe that can perform well in hot weather. So moisture wicking and things like that. So different characteristics. Now, you may have the same shoe designed for all these geographies, but when you market it to people in Southern California, you're not going to market saying, hey, it will help you protect from rain. There's no point. Same way, if you market that to people in Seattle and say, okay, it's going to help you in warm weather, hot weather, it's of no point. So understanding geography that way is really crucial. So it may not be very crucial for the shoe designer, but it will be crucial for for people who are going to advertise and market the shoe. Now, because the customer segmentation studies happen very early in a product life cycle, very early before people are designing the shoe, putting price point, putting marketing material. So, so as a person who is responsible for customer segmentation, you would need to capture all this information early on, because whoever is using that information could use it for either product design purpose or for marketing purpose, advertising purpose, or pricing purpose, any of those different purposes. So companies have different departments, different type of people. Um, so you have to be careful to capture enough information in your customer segmentation. Okay. Hopefully you guys are getting the concept. These are all great answers. Okay. Let's go through a bit more detail. So suppose you have done the study, and after the study, you guys mention age, gender, how they consume, what is the purpose of the shoe, which in what geography. You combine all the data. So you gathered all that data. You did customer surveys. You figured that out. Now you gathered the data, and then the end result of that is you have these 5 segments, and we talked about some of them already. You have, say, a segment about runners, so top runners. Now, what you would do is then you would have a big market research survey, and you will figure out that, hey, 14% of my target customers would be lying in the top runner kind of range, and the sneakerheads would be in 11% versus comfort seekers in 30%. So now you start to understand that, hey, where is this market? Where is the market for these people, and how big is that market? So when you give this information to people who are designing the product, um, they can say that, hey, my next shoe I want to design is for top runners. They're good 14%, and then usually they're willing to pay premium. So I'll get $100 per shoe versus someone who's comfort seeker, even though that's a 30% of the population, target population, but they may be willing to pay only $30 per shoe, as an example. And you can start to figure out the business aspect of building a shoe and making money out of that. So I combined a lot of concepts in this. We talked about not only segmentation based on different criteria, but giving them names and personalities. So as I mentioned, top runner right away, same comfort seekers. I just have to mention that, but then you have to have facts behind it. So that's one aspect, is you generalize the market and all of that, but then, okay, what are the facts and data? And that's where the last column shows is how big is the market. It's just the total size. You may add more data, like in terms of dollar value, in terms of average selling price. There are a lot of other details from a business perspective you would want. How big is that market, to how much money I can make in that market, how many other market entrants and competition is in this, what is the growth of this market. There's a lot of these factors. As you do market research, you would try to find answers to those. Any question?
I guess I have one one question. I've been out of touch with this as well. So, what happens when we're doing this kind of study and it's like good for some segments, but it's like it touches on all segments, but it's not great for any one of them. Where when you've blended all this data, you end up with products that don't necessarily make any one group extremely happy. That there's elements keeping all people happy. And
That
I'm
will
looking
be a,
from
yeah,
this.
so that will be a business choice. So the business choice will be that, hey, I want to build a product that appeals to every segment. Okay, or so that's like a Google search. So Google search is very horizontal. We call it, the technical term is a kind of a horizontal appeal. Yeah, that every, whether you're young, old, male, female, doesn't matter. That's 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 a very common appeal. Whereas you may have a search, say Crunchbase has a search, but it's for entrepreneurs or people or professionals. Or LinkedIn has a search engine also. Now you start to see that, hey, these are the properties of very specific kind of a product. And so for that to happen, you need to do market research upfront, figure out your market segmentation, And then you say, okay, I'm building a product or service for that particular segment. So say in this example, for Nike, you could say, hey, I'm building this sneaker for comfort seekers. Or you could say, I'm building a sneaker that is generic enough. It's a white sneaker for every product category. That tend to happen for early products. So if you say 20 years back, everyone used to wear white sneakers. That was the only product available. Or 150 years back, Ford had only one motor car that was black. Let's go into more detail. So I'm picking certain examples here. So we generalize things here. Now we go into, as I mentioned, the personality traits and more details about each of these segments. In this case, savvy stylist. So only one statement from is able to visualize who's that person. Okay, I pay attention to the visual landscape both on and off the shelf, and that captures the essence of this kind of particular segment of customers. And when you are marketing to them, when you are placing the product in the shelf, you understand that, hey, this is what will prompt them to purchase the product. That it's not just the product itself, but how it's presented is also meaningful to them. Now you go to the next segment, say sneakerheads. And sneakerheads, for them, sneakers are the starting point and the centerpiece of every outfit. And that means when you're marketing to them, you have to show the sneaker in basically as part of an outfit. So you can start to see that there's a remarkable difference in how you build and market the products depending on the type of customer you want to cater to. So in another example, top runners. Ugly, dirty shoes are a badge of honor. It means that you have put in the miles. And obviously, the outfit doesn't matter to that person. The how you put so it's very functional, uh, kind of an approach that I want it for this function and make sure this shoe provides me that function. I'm willing to pay top dollars to get me that function. So that's kind of identification of a top runner. Now, again, this is just a single sentence statement that captures the essence. Now, if you want to go even deeper and you have done enough research, then you are starting to define that person further. Uh, that it's not a person who is just working on the weekends, they're training heavily, what type of gender, what type of functions they want, what else they have in their closet. So that gives a perspective of the competition. Now, uh, the value of this is that people who are designing the product now obviously know a lot more about the care abouts of this person. Once the product is built, and suppose I'm a salesperson in a Nike shop, and there are a bunch of people walking by. Now, if I've been trained right, I will be able to say, hey, this person walking by is a top runner persona, or a sneakerhead persona, or a savvy stylist persona, because I'll either based on the look or profile, or based on I'm going to ask them one or two questions, and right away I will figure out that in what persona these type of people or potential customers they lie in that persona. And then my as a salesperson, my next set of conversations will be very directed to that customer based on I know that persona well enough that I know what matters to them and what to show them. And that way, I'm not wasting that customer's time, and I'm giving and showing the product that they can really purchase right away. So for example, if you have to fill a template, something like this, or another template that I showed, something like this for a children segment of inAtalent service, you would have a profile of say uh, three three students, and you basically almost create a persona that people who are going to build the website, people who are going to market this website can again and again look at it and be very clear, so that the market research you did and the information and all the insights you got is documented in a way that everyone else in the intern team can leverage it. Guys, thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed this session. And if you have questions, yeah, come back to me anytime later.
Thank you for coming and presenting on this topic. If we have any questions, we'll be sure to shoot it your way. But I'm sure everybody here appreciated it a lot. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Enjoy your internship, guys. Have fun.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.